Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class. We have completed the chapter, this crisis of democratic order, which deals with the proclamation of emergency, consequences of emergency, then lessons we learned from emergency, and what was the politics after emergency. And now we will be doing some those topics, some of those topics, all of those topics which have been added in the revised syllabus. So one of the topic which is added is the democratic upsurge. So first of all, what do we mean by democratic upsurge? The meaning of democratic upsurges is when the participation of people increases in the democratic politics of the country, then we call it democratic upsurge. पार्टिसिपेशन है ना, लोगों का पार्टिसिपेशन बढ़ गया एंड इसी बढ़े हुए पार्टिसिपेशन को ही हम डेमोक्रेटिक अपसर्ज कहते हैं. और व्हाट वी फाइंड दैट on this principle, social scientists have actually categorized three democratic upsurge in post independence history of India. अगर हम 1950s से लेकर के अभी तक का देखते हैं, from 1950s till present time, we see that the social scientists जो हैं वो इसको थ्री पार्ट्स में बांट रहे हैं. फर्स्ट डेमोक्रेटिक अपसर्ज जो है वो कब आया? फर्स्ट democratic upsurge, the period of this upsurge was from 1950s till 1970s. ठीक है. Okay, and in this period, what we find that the Indian adult voters participated in the democratic politics both at both the level, at the center level as well as at the state level. So as we had discussed during that when this first election was going to be conducted, at that time what was the myth that democracy can only be successful in a country which is modernized, where urbanization is done, where rate of literacy and where access to media is available. So by holding successful elections to both Lok Sabha and legislative assemblies, actually the people of India proved that democracy can be established in a country where where poverty is existing, where rate of literacy is less. So this was the first democratic upsurge, and now from 1980s we can say the second democratic upsurge started. It started in 1980s और ये पूरे 1980 में ही इसको हम मानेंगे. ये पूरा जो डिकेड है, डिकेड ऑफ 1980 वी कैन से इसका पीरियड रहा है ना. और इस समय में हम देखते हैं कि व्हाट हैपेंड दैट जो मासेस थे उनमें जो हमारे लोअर क्लास है, जैसे शेड्यूल कास्ट के लोग, शेड्यूल ट्राइब्स के, ओबीसीज, उनका पार्टिसिपेशन बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गया. और इसके बारे में योगेंद्र यादव जो एक बहुत बड़े सोशल साइंटिस्ट हैं, उन्होंने ये इसको सेकेंड डेमोक्रेटिक अपसर्ज का नाम दिया है. और इस बढ़े हुए पार्टिसिपेशन जो SC ST और OBCs का इंक्रीज्ड पार्टिसिपेशन था, उसके कारण क्या हुआ कि जो हमारा पॉलिटिक्स था वो बहुत ज़्यादा एकोमोडेटिव बन गया और एक्सेसिबल बन गया सभी के लिए. इट्स नॉट कि ओनली द अपर कास्ट पीपल कैन हैव एक्सेस टू द पॉलिटिक्स, बट it became accessible to all. And because of this participation of these classes, what we find, they got an opportunity to strengthen their self-respect, and it also ensured empowerment in the democratic politics of the country. So we can say yes, उनके कोई economic benefit उन्हें नहीं हुआ कि उनका standard of living बढ़ गया, but their empowerment occurred, politically they become powerful, और उनके self respect को भी strength मिलता है. And now we see the third democratic upsurge. These are the two democratic upsurge. अब हमारा है third democratic upsurge. So third democratic upsurge started in 1990. It started in 1990, and we know 1990 was the time. In the 1991 only we adopted new economic policy which was based on liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And now what happens that with this changed economic policy, there emerged a competitive market society, and market became the most important thing. And because of this, what we find that the involvement or the participation of the people, especially the young generation, increased to a large extent, and this paved the way for this third democratic upsurge. So it started in 1990s, from 1990s till present time. This categorization of time is very much important, है ना. तो ये अभी तक ये हमारे सामने है, और इसमें हम यही देखते हैं कि जो now after this when market economy became the most important economy, and because of economy the participation of the people increased in the politics, we find that survival of the ableist became मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट, है ना. जो जिसके अंदर सबसे ज़्यादा क्वालिटी होगी वही सर्वाइव कर पाएगा. और इसी में हम देखते हैं कि जो हमारा इलेक्टोरल मार्केट जिसको हम कहेंगे कि जो 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 वोटर्स हैं उनको अपने तरफ अट्रैक्ट करने का जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ का काम होता है, दिस इज़ इलेक्टोरल मार्केट. इलेक्टोरल मार्केट का यही मतलब हो रहा है कि इलेक्टोरेट जो है उनको किस तरह से अट्रैक्ट किया जा रहा है. सो ये जो अब हमारा इलेक्टोरल मार्केट है, जिसमें जो हमारे यंग जनरेशन बहुत ज़्यादा है, इंडिया को यंगेस्तान कहा जाता है क्योंकि नंबर ऑफ़ यंग पीपल इज़ वेरी लार्जेस्ट इन इंडिया. तो ये जो इलेक्टोरल मार्केट है, इसमें हम क्या देखते हैं कि शिफ्ट हो जाता है. कहाँ से कहाँ शिफ्ट होता है, दिस इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड, है ना. कहाँ कैसे शिफ्ट हो रहा है. इलेक्टोरल मार्केट, and this electoral market is shifting from state to market. ठीक है, स्टेट से मार्केट की तरफ अब शिफ्ट हो गया, बिकॉज नाउ द इकोनॉमी हैज़ बिकम मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट, है ना. क्योंकि ग्लोबलाइजेशन हो चुका है, प्राइवेटाइजेशन हो चुका है, लिबरलाइजेशन हो चुका है, तो इकोनॉमी जो है वो पूरी तरह से फ्री हो चुकी है, और इकोनॉमिक कंसर्न जो है उसके कारण लोगों का पॉलिटिकल पार्टिसिपेशन बढ़ रहा है. सो जो हमारा फोकस पहले स्टेट पे होता था, नाउ दैट फोकस शिफ्टेड टू मार्केट, है ना. इसी तरह से एक और बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट शिफ्ट आया, दैट इज फ्रॉम गवर्नमेंट टू गवर्नेंस. फ्रॉम अब गवर्नमेंट से हमारा जो शिफ्ट है वो गवर्नेंस पे हो गया है. व्हाट इज दिस शिफ्ट? गवर्नमेंट का मतलब the body of people who are powerful, who are taking decisions. So now government is not important. What is important? Governance. How the country is governed. It is it done efficiently or not? The government is taking concern of the needs of the people or not. कैसा governance कैसा है, गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट पावर इम्पॉर्टेंट, जो हमारा फोकस है वो गवर्नमेंट से गवर्नेंस पे आ गया कि कैसे शासन चलाया जा रहा है, लोगों को उसका फ़ायदा हो रहा है या नहीं, है ना। और तीसरी जो है कि वो शिफ्ट जो है वो स्टेट का रोल चेंज हो गया। अर्लियर द स्टेट यूज्ड टू बी स्टेट एज कंट्रोलर, फ्रॉम स्टेट एज कंट्रोलर टू स्टेट एज फैसिलिटेटर। ठीक है, जो स्टेट पहले कंट्रोलर हुआ करता था अब वो फैसिलिटेटर हो गया। दिस इज ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड। कंट्रोलर क्यों होता था? क्योंकि परमिट वगैरह की सिस्टम थी, तो परमिट के कारण, लाइसेंस के कारण स्टेट वॉज देयर टू कंट्रोल द इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी, and this was it was the concept of that time that by regulation, by controlling the economy, the state will uh, become the state will adopt such policies which will be in favor of the poor. So at that time, before 1991, the state was playing the role of controller. Now the state has become facilitator. आपको facilitate करना है इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी को, आपको कंट्रोल नहीं करना है ना। सो इस तरह के जो चेंजेस आए, इस कारण से जो यंग जनरेशन है उनका पार्टिसिपेशन बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ जाता है, और इसी को हम थर्ड डेमोक्रेटिक अपसर्ज की बात कहते हैं। और इसी के साथ हम देखते हैं कि आज का जो हमारा इलेक्टोरल प्रेफरेंस है, दैट इज़ नॉट फॉर एनी अदर की कास्ट के बेसिस पे या रिलीजन के बेसिस पे पीपल आर नॉट एक्सरसाइजिंग देयर राइट टू वोट, बट दे आर गिविंग इम्पोर्टेंस टू द इशू ऑफ डेवलपमेंट, द इशू ऑफ गवर्नेंस, है ना। दीज आर इम्पॉर्टेंट। सो in this way we can see that these are the three stages of democratic upsurge in India. Now under this democratic resurgence, the chapter, you have to also study the viewpoints of Ram Manohar Lohia, है ना, जयप्रकाश नारायण एंड दैट पंडित दीनदयाल उपाध्याय। ये तीन हैं जिनके व्यूज़ को, जिनकी आइडियोलॉजीज को आपको जानना है, पढ़ना है। सो द फर्स्ट थिंकर इज जयप्रकाश नारायण, and the most important his ideology was the ideology of total revolution. As we have seen when he was talking of this, he took the lead of Bihar student movement. He claimed he wanted this total revolution, है ना। So he is known for his three main contribution. First was this, he was against corruption, and he promoted this communitarian socialism, and he championed total revolution. So your focus is on total revolution. Other than this, he was also against corruption and bringing communitarian socialism. He was the first leader in post-independence India who started his fight against corruption, and he make the youth of the country participate in this demand, in this fight against corruption. Not only this, he also advocated the office of Lokpal, which should be there against corruption, and the principle of communitarian socialism which was given by him is that according to him there are three key layers in the Indian society. Okay. Communitarian socialism. Three layers of society. And what are these three layers? The first layer is community, then region, and then Rashtra. Community, this is the first layer, okay? Then region, and the last one is Rashtra. Okay, and according to him, they all are combined together, and this is a kind of he's talking about federation, है ना? It's a community at the local level, region at the state level, and Rashtra at the national level. And he also advocated transformation of individual, society, and state by this total revolution, है ना? He called for total revolution, and this total revolution was for transformation of individual, society, and the state. And he wanted that there should be revolution in all spheres of life, like moral, cultural, economic, political, educational, and ecological. So he was, we can say, he was ahead of his time, because in at that time he was talking about ecological spheres of life. So this is really it needs to be appreciated. And in political transformation, he talked about right to recall. Like we have the right to give vote, to elect our representative, but in our democracy we don't have right to recall. This is very important, because right to recall means अगर आपका जो representative है, to whom you have given your vote, and now after becoming representative he is not fulfilling his duties in a proper manner, then there must be a provision to recall him. So this is right to recall, and it should be decided by the people only that he should be recalled or not. Then the importance of village mohalla samitis in democratic politics was also supported by him, because through that village or mohalla samitis participation of people can be ensured. And he also called for upar ke log. Upar ke log means the people belonging to rich class of the society. They must join political struggle for a clean politics in the country. When the rich people gets involved in politics of the country, it will be in the benefit of the country. So these are the you can say essence of his thoughts, and his complete thought revolves around man who could be the real catalyst of change in India. The individual, man means an individual. This is important because according to Jayaprakash Narayan, who is the center? The center is man. Or we can say it, though he used it man, but you can understand it as individual, है ना? So individual, okay, man who could be the real catalyst of change in India. If we want to bring change in India, who plays the role of catalyst? The man. Catalyst क्या होता है? किसी भी जो केमिकल रिएक्शन होता है उसमें कुछ किसी ऐसे एलिमेंट का डालना जिससे कि वो उसका जो स्पीड है रिएक्शन का वो बढ़ जाता है ना. तो ये इंडिविजुअल है जो कि चेंज का जो प्रोसेस चल रहा है बहुत स्लो चल रहा है, इसको वो स्पीड में ला सकता है. ओके, सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट जयप्रकाश नारायण. एंड नाउ वी will see about Ram Manohar Lohia, who was a socialist leader. He is famous for his socialism, Indian socialism. Okay. So Lohia, he is one of the main proponent of socialism in India, and his idea was of democratic socialism. It means that the goal is democracy. Okay? No, goal is socialism, and in order to achieve this socialism, democracy should be the means. इट मीन्स जो भी हमने सोशलिज्म जहाँ भी देखते हैं तो वहाँ पर वो अनडेमोक्रेटिक होता है, बट यहाँ पर सोशलिज्म इज़ द एम एंड डेमोक्रेसी इज़ द मीन्स, इज़ द पाथ, है ना. एंड he was of the opinion that both capitalism and socialism, both of them are irrelevant for Indian society, and that is why he has given his democratic socialism, and it has two objectives. This democratic socialism has two objectives. The first was economic objective in the form of food, housing, and the non-economic objective was freedom and democracy. ठीक है, तो इसके दो ऑब्जेक्टिव हैं. इकोनॉमिक में आपके जो भी बेसिक नीड्स हैं वो पूरे होने चाहिए, और नॉन इकोनॉमिक में फ्रीडम, दिस इज ऑल्सो आवर बेसिक नीड. तो ये जो आइडियाज़ हैं इस तरह के, इनको भी फुलफिल होना चाहिए. ठीक है, तो ये हमने देखा. इसके बाद लोहिया जो थी उन्होंने और भी कुछ ऐसे कॉन्सेप्ट्स दिए जो जिसका हमें यहाँ पर बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट होगा हमारे लिए इसको समझना. चौबुर्जा राजनीति. व्हाट डू वी मीन बाई चौबुर्जा राजनीति? चौबुर्जा राजनीति का मतलब ये होता है, अकॉर्डिंग टू राम मनोहर लोहिया, दैट there are four pillars of politics as well as society. These are center, region, district and village. Center, region, district and village. Okay, they all are linked together. They all are linked to each other, है ना. And other than this, Lohia was also supportive of affirmative action. Affirmative action, it means the actions which are taken for the welfare or for the upliftment of a particular class or society, है ना. And Lohia was of the opinion that this affirmative action should not only be confined for the downtrodden, but it should also be given to the women and non-religious minorities, है ना. जैसे हमारे यहाँ SC/ST के लिए जो रिजर्वेशन की पॉलिसीज़ हैं, these are affirmative action. So he was of the opinion that this affirmative action should be not only for this downtrodden, but it should also be for the women and the non-religious minorities. Okay, and Lohia was also supporter of party of socialism. These are very important terms. Okay, so what do we mean by party of socialism? These terms you must understand and memorize also. Party of socialism is it's an attempt of merging all political parties, है ना. He was of the opinion that party of socialism should have three symbols. A spade. A spade means prepare to make effort. जो workers होते हैं, laborers होते हैं, they work with a spade, है ना. तो इसका मतलब आपको मेहनत करनी होगी. ठीक है. दूसरा है वोट, पावर ऑफ वोटिंग, एंड तीसरा है प्रिजन. अगर जरूरत पड़ेगी तो आपको जेल भी जाना पड़ेगा, है ना. सो दीज आर द इम्पॉर्टेंट वी कैन से सिम्बल्स ऑफ पार्टी ऑफ सोशलिज्म. एंड पार्टी ऑफ सोशलिज्म इज देयर, मतलब लोहिया ने जो कॉन्सेप्ट दिया दैट वाज पार्टी लेस. पार्टी होगी नहीं, एक ही पार्टी होगी. सारी पार्टीज जो हैं वो एक पार्टी के अंदर मर्ज कर जाएंगे. ठीक है. सो दिस इज अबाउट लोहिया. एंड नाउ वी विल सी द पंडित दीनदयाल उपाध्याय एंड हिज इंटीग्रल ह्यूमैनिज्म. Third is Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay, he was a philosopher, a sociologist, an economist, and a politician. And the philosophy which is presented by him is known as integral humanitarianism. Integral humani. Oh, it's correct. Not humanitarian. Integral humanism. So we will focus on this integral humanism. In this he presented an indigenous socio-economic model, because most of the model and thinking we are following or we are knowing is Western. So this is indigenous socio-economic model. Okay, and in this indigenous सोशियो इंडिजिनस मतलब देसी है ना, अपने देश का इंडिजिनस socio-economic model. Okay, so this was given by Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay, and in this he is of the opinion that human is the center of development, है ना. सेंटर में कौन है? ह्यूमन है. एंड व्हाट इज द एम ऑफ इंटीग्रल ह्यूमनिज्म? द एम इज टू डिग्निफाइड लाइफ, है ना, इज टू एंश्योर डिग्निफाइड लाइफ फॉर एवरी ह्यूमन बीइंग. हर ह्यूमन बीइंग को डिग्निफाइड लाइफ मिलनी चाहिए. डिग्निफाइड कहने का मतलब कि उनके जो बेसिक नीड्स है वो पूरे होने चाहिए, उनके साथ फ्रीडम और इक्वालिटी का ट्रीटमेंट होना चाहिए. बट इट्स नॉट ओनली अबाउट इंडिविजुअल, बट on the other hand, he also talks of balancing the needs of individual and society. There should be balance between the need of society and need of individual, and he also supported sustainable consumption of natural resources, so that resources can be replenished. So this is also a very important aspect of his thinking, of his ideology, that he is talking about sustainable consumption of natural resources, because nowadays we can see this is the one of the main concern of humanity, that how to sustain the development, how to sustain the consumption of natural resources. And according to him, this integral humanism, it enhances not only political but also economic and social democracy. Political democracy means you must have right to vote, है ना. But when we are talking about economic and social democracy, it means that there should be democracy in society. There should not be any kind of discrimination on the basis of gender or caste or religion or anything like that. And economic democracy means everyone should have equality of opportunity. Everyone, all the basic needs of life must be fulfilled, है ना. So he seeks to promote, according to by his concept of integral humanism, he seeks to promote diversity, है ना, because India is a country of diversity. So diversity need not to be crushed, it should be promoted. Okay, and we can see that his philosophy of integral humanism is based on three principles. The first is primacy of whole, not part, है ना. And then second is supremacy of dharma. and third is autonomy of society. So, what we find that Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay, in his integral humanism, he opposed both Western capitalist individualism and Marxist socialism. And according to him, that this both capitalist and socialist ideology, they both of them consider only the need of human body and mind, and these are only there to serve the materialistic purpose, whereas the spiritual development is totally neglected in both these ideologies. And he is of the opinion that spiritual development is equally important for the complete development of human being. Only materialistic things are not required. There should be a spiritual development, and it is missing in both capitalism and socialism. And he based his philosophy on the internal consign, pure human soul, and this pure human soul was called Chitti by him. Chitti. This is pure human soul. Okay, and he also envisaged a classless, casteless and conflict free social system, जहाँ कोई क्लास ना हो, जहाँ कोई कास्ट ना हो, जहाँ किसी भी तरह का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ना हो. तो दिस इज इंटीग्रल humanism of Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay. So we have completed this chapter.